Daiko reviews here. This time it's time for another game review, and it's a game that's a mix between Metal Gear and a 1960s espionage series from Paramount Pictures. Well, guess what game is it? It is Mission Impossible from PALCOM Software or Ultra Games. Actually, it's a game from Konami. And to be specific, this game was based on the new Mission Impossible series from the late 1980s, early 90s. That was actually shot mostly or produced in Australia due to cost-cutting reasons. The characters in the game featured are also from this series. This is the leader of the Mission Impossible team, which is still the old guy basically. This is the guy with the machine gun and the bombs. In the series he's usually very athletic, but in this game he's as slow as a turtle. This is the Australian guy, the actor. He's using a boomerang in the game, and one of his specialties is his ability to disguise himself with masks. This is the black guy. He's an electronics wizard. His weapon is basically just his bare fist, and his secondary weapon is a sort of poisonous gas that knocks out enemies temporarily. He's very good with electronics, so he can open doors that are locked with codes. Some other things, the character Shannon from the series is also in the game, but she is actually a hostage. This game was produced in 1991 by Konami, and it's actually a pretty decent game. I think it has some elements from Metal Gear and Snake's Revenge, and definitely a lot of features from the series. These are some things to look out for in the game. For instance, this is a door that can only be accessed on the orange side. They call it checkpoint, no, they call it the Iron Curtain. Then there's checkpoint Charlie, which is a door that only opens with a key card. And then there's a door that can only be opened by the black guy because he has to decipher the lock. Then there's switches, those are very important. They just turn off traps, and the game is full of traps. You just can't make it past without disabling those. Then there's vents with hot air. Those are annoying, and these are gas chambers. And then there's cameras, just like in Metal Gear. If you get caught, you get captured, and then you have to then you have to fight the Iron Claw. And these are infrared beams. If you get caught by these, again, same story, you get captured. Let me see, and these are pressure cookers, as they call them, but they're just hot steam. Then there's guard robots, and this is a robot arm, and those robot arms are damn annoying because you come them across in stage 1 and in stage 6. In stage 1 you can disable them, but in stage 6 they are a real showstopper if you don't know how to beat them. Then there's holographic zones. If you can't disable those, the level will loop endlessly, so you have to disable them, and the game calls them illusion devices. These are some of the enemies. As you can see, well, basic story of the game. Your mission, if you choose to decide to accept it. Dr. O, the clone plant genius, has been kidnapped by the Sinister 7. Also swiped was his computerized military defense system, which the evil thugs have reprogrammed to destroy the world. Now his future and ultimately Earth's survival depend on your crack Mission Impossible team to perform a secret surgical strike and rescue. But to pull off this operation, you must be daring enough to command 3 different IMF identities, Max, Grant and Nicholas. Each has special agent talents and firepower, such as quick change disguises and remote control bombs, which you must master to survive 6 torturous levels with dozens of hidden espionage zones. So good luck, Jim. As always, should any of your IMF force be caught, the Secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions. This box will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Oh, in that case we better put it away. But basically what this game is about is that some group, the Sinister Seven, has stolen nuclear warheads and they've hidden them somewhere in Cyprus. And what they basically want is start World War III. This game draws most of its story from the movie War Games. It has a lot of reference to it, especially that World War III program. And in the end of the game, you also have to play a game against the computer. And it's just like the movie War Games. And I'm going to show you that later on. So the Dr. O guy, he designed the defense system and he was basically kidnapped and you have to rescue him. And you have to rescue his sidekick, Shannon, which is actually one of your team. Some people say that this game is bad. Well, at first I just thought it was frustrating. It's not a bad game at all. It's pretty good. But it's a game that you need to get used to. When I got this game in 1995, the first year I had it, I didn't understand a damn about it. This is one of those games, where the heck do I go type of games. It's just like Metal Gear. You need to figure out where to go and what to do. It requires strategy, it requires stealth. And then in 1996, a friend of mine was playing at my house and he played this game. And I said to him, well, this game is difficult. I don't understand the heck about it. Well, and the first time he played it, he basically cracked it immediately. He immediately understood how to play this game. So you need to tune into it basically. And then I got really enthusiastic about it. And well, I finally discovered the charm of this game. And well, that's basically it. This is the kind of game that you have to understand. It can be real challenging, but as soon as you understand how it works, it becomes really fun. But mind you, this is a game that is best played with Game Genie codes, just to make it a little fairer in terms of difficulty, because it's one of those Konami games. It's rock hard really. It's a hardcore game. This game doesn't fuck around. This game really punishes you for just the most single mistake you make. But if you play this game with an emulator, you can really train it and then you can get really good at it. So let's look at the game. Alright, this is the introduction sequence. It's very similar to the series, as you can see. It's got the theme song, it's got the character bios, the pictures, it's got the lighting of the match. Well, it's very similar to the TV show. They've recreated it very faithfully. Okay, let's start the game. And when it starts, you are greeted with a message that will self-destruct in 5 seconds with a nicely animated scene. And it's very similar to how it was done in the series. Usually Jim would get a small CD-ROM that he would put in the computer, and then the message would display, and then after the message has been shown, the computer would destroy itself. Within 5 seconds, of course. And now the briefing. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to rescue Dr. O and his secretary from the Sinister 7 underground hideout. And then we start with level 1. And first up we enter a building, where probably one of the most important messages is told to you. by an informant. Important. Switch may not release the trap, because there's many traps in this game and they can be switched off most of the time. And you really have to do this, otherwise you won't be able to proceed, because those traps are lethal. But in some cases you're not exactly in luck, because they cannot be disabled, like in stage 6. And here's another hint, go into the alley. That's something we have to do later. And then there's pedestrians that attack you, at least some of them do. The pedestrians that attack you can be shot. Those who don't should be left alone. If you shoot them, the helicopter will get you. Then there's the green guys that will stab you with a knife. And we've switched to Grant Collier, the black guy, and he can open that door because he's the only one who can crack the combination of the lock. And by the sound of the beep you can hear if the number is correct. The purple guys will shoot you, and the medkit we just leave it for now. So one of the unique features of this game is that each character has its own unique abilities that you can use. And now we meet our first trap. It's a moving wall. Actually you can outrun it with this character if you're fast enough, but it's just a good idea to switch it off with this switch. It can be found in some of the buildings. Now we're switching back to Max. In the series he's very athletic, but in this game he's really slow, as I told you earlier. He's carrying a machine gun and he has remote control bombs, and now he's been knocked out by a car. And this is Nicholas. He's an Australian guy and he is a master in disguise. That's one of his nifty abilities. And he has a boomerang for a weapon. And now he has been caught by the Iron Claw. I don't know what the Iron Claw is. It looks like some kind of mutant, but you have to fight those if you get captured. Oh, somebody's chasing me. And here's some other informants. It says that I need a keycard. And there's some strange orange suitcase, and it replaces or replenishes your B weapons, because those can run out, like the masks in this case. And here is somebody who will tell me where I can find the pass. The location switch between the captured and the pass room. And then we walk to a manhole cover, and apparently this very last one we can actually blow up if we switch to Max with his remote control bombs. And there we are, we are in the sewers. If you would walk to the right, you would face a moving wall, so be sure to switch that off first. And now we're back on the streets. And if I'm not mistaken, we are getting the keycard here. And when you get the keycard, the actual photographs will be changed, so that the henchmen of the Sinister 7 think you are one of them. And this game is all about informants. They give you all sorts of clues. Oh, in this case I attacked a pedestrian, which I shouldn't have done. And when you're game over, you can choose between continuation or passwords. And there's only 6 passwords in the game. This is a bit later in the first stage, and this is nearing the end. And this is where we're going to use the key cards. And here are some infrared beams, and that's very similar to what you find in Metal Gear. Basically, you have to avoid them, and if you get hit by them, you will be captured and you have to fight the Iron Claw again. And there's the switch to turn off a flood that will flood you with sewage water. And this is exactly the place where that can happen. You see that big orange outlet in the right corner of the wall? If you hadn't switched it off, you would be washed away by sewage. And you cannot outrun it. And here are some robot arms, which we have disabled. In stage 6, however, you cannot disable them, fortunately. And this is the first level boss, and he will tell you that Dr. O is in a Venice temple. And he falls through the floor. How ironic. And now it's time for some action in Venice, where we're gonna ride a boat. A speedboat, to be precise. And this is just a quick action stage. It's the simplest stage in the game. It's very easy, you just move around with your boat and you shoot other boats and the occasional helicopter. It's very quick and, well, you can easily beat this level. And there is the Venice Temple. And I'm not gonna show you the whole of level 3, just the boss section, because the boss is kind of hard. And because the floor will collapse if you walk too long on the tiles. Yes, it's a very strange floor. I don't know what kind of material they used, but it wasn't approved by the building code, I suppose. And there is stage 4. It's a mountain range, and here's a projection thing or an illusion device, and you have to hit this thing. Otherwise the stage will continue to loop endlessly. And when you walk in the snow, you're actually walking slower. And then we're going to the cave on the left. And here's some kind of underground bunker in the mountains. And there's some switches here. And now we're almost at the 4th level boss. And the boss is holding someone hostage, and that person is Shannon, which is actually one of your team members. And when you rescued her, you get to the holding cell with Dr. O, and he will tell you some stuff about the World War III program, and he will give you a floppy disk. There he is in his cell. And we have to open the fence. You should not touch the fence because it's electrified. And now he will tell you stuff. And well, the Sinister 7 wants to do World War III, just like in the movie War Games. And well, the whole plot of this game is pretty much a rip-off of War Games, to some extent. And just like in the movie, you have to confuse the computer, but I'll get to that later. And of course, memorize this code, or better write it down, because that's what you got to use at the end of stage 6. And now we're going onto the roof of the building. Shannon and Dr. O are waiting for you, and if you go to stand there, the helicopter will pick you up and you'll go to the next stage, which is a bit of skiing. It's similar to stage 2, but a lot harder. You basically have to ski in Switzerland on a mountain, and the mountain will crack open and you can fall into the pit. Or you can crash into something. As you can see, I cannot last very long in this stage. And now we're at the final level, and this one is really big. It basically consists out of two parts. Apparently it's some sort of harbor location in Cyprus. Now we're at the docks, and we're switching to a slightly faster character. This stage is very annoying because there's some kind of loop in there that you cannot avoid, and it has something to do with the boss. We'll get to that later. Okay, we're giving Max a medkit because he needs it. And there's some guy that wants to knock you in the water, and that's why we're using Max's remote control bombs. He's very useful for that kind of enemy. And with Max we can also blow up that crate. It's one of the rare things in the environment that you can blow up. Oh, I'm been put on fire. And there's no way to avoid it. Well, unless you would go the other route by blowing up the crate, and then you would end up there in the top left corner. We're toggling off the conveyor belt because that thing is annoying as heck. Oh, and this is a lot further. This is the robot arms, and my first try I am falling into the pit, and the thing just grabs me. Second try, and now I'm gonna show you guys how to actually beat that bloody thing. You just start shooting like a maniac at the first arm until it blows away. It just takes a couple of hits and boom, there it goes. And now we can destroy the other one from a safe position without being captured. Those claws are kind of interesting and they frustrated me for a very long time. Because I just didn't know how to beat it. And there's another illusion device. Again, it's very important that you find this thing. Now we have to go through this basement again. And there's at least three kinds of things that make life difficult for you. Fire, pressure cookers, hot steamy air. And the music is also very pulse quickening and works on your nerves. And I think that's a theme song that really fits well with the stage. And now we're going into an area where the floor will collapse. Again, the music is kind of daunting. That's really interesting. I've never seen a building with a floor that collapses on purpose. That's something that would have never been approved by any building code whatsoever. Just the person who designed it must have been very sadistic in the first place. So we replenished some of our health and our B weapons. And in this section we can also put Nicholas to good use in a moment. Because he's a master in disguise. And now the purple guy will simply think that he's one of them. So let's give him another bit of health. And again, this is a gas chamber, so the fumes have to be disabled first. Otherwise you go completely nuts. And there's Nicholas again with his disguise. And you can see how useful that was. It lets you pass those tricky situations. Now we're almost at the boss, and it's the first time we reach it. We have to reach it a second time, and that's the loop thing in this stage. That is really annoying. And that's kind of unnecessary in my opinion. But the designers, they were kind of bitchy in this case, and they want to make your life hard. And the boss says that the world is ending. So we basically have to shoot him. And then if we want to leave the room, we just fall into a trapdoor. And that's perfectly normal, you cannot avoid it. And now I've skipped ahead a little bit, and this is the second time around. And now we can actually pass the chair. And we're getting in another area with crumbling floors. And we just have to sacrifice Max in this case. He's just too slow. Now we're entering a room with bazooka guys that have flamethrowers. Well, actually it's not a bazooka guy. I said it all wrong, but it's just some guy with a flamethrower and he wants to fry you. Oh, did you see those brains? And now we're entering the computer room. And this is where the whole World War III thing starts. And where we have to play like war games. We insert the diskette and enter the password. And as you can see, there's also a timer. If you fail here, you get a bad ending. Even if you fail at the game that you have to play against the computer. The game is not really hard. It's just tic-tac-toe basically, just like in war games. And very similar to the movie, you just have to confuse the heck out of the computer. And after a couple of tries, it will recognize that the game of tic-tac-toe is always a tie and that the game has no purpose. And then it just gets confused and it crashes and it goes berserk and you've rescued the world from disaster. And that's basically it. I think they made really creative use of an existing movie, a TV series and some stuff from other Konami games. And just like Metal Gear, it has that typical Konami difficulty and charm to it. And as you can see, the computer is now going berserk. Dr. O, this game isn't fun. Can we play another one? And there you have it. You've rescued the world. Well, that was the game. All the stages, all the difficult traps, all the sections. Now let's talk about the music. I think the music in this game is pretty nice. It's a prime example of NES music put to good use. It has themes that really fit well with the action scenes and the espionage scenes. They just seem to fit. In the quieter sections where stealth and espionage is important, you kind of have a spy theme in it. And in the more action-oriented stages, you have more upbeat music. And in the really nervous, high pressure, high difficulty stages, you've got very pulse quickening music that really work on your nerves, and that, well, I think that's great. It's something you don't really see a lot in modern games anymore. Modern games, they all have ambient music, but on those NES games they really made very good use of themes, and well, I find it great. The music was also made by some of the people who made the music for Snake's Revenge. There were two people on the Snake's Revenge team, or in this one, that worked on Mission Impossible's music. So, well, what can I say more? It has the typical Konami charm. Well, I'd say thanks for watching, and well, see ya!